All right, talk of the town. Let's talk about the concept plan for a possible new apartment complex. I believe behind the Circle K gas station across the street from the McDonald's on Route 6 out by the high school. This is the article that was put up this morning, talking about 6 new apartment buildings could be constructed in Channahon. If you read this, you can see that the mayor is talking about how it's a 6-building, 240 total units of multifamily near Route 6 and Ridge Road, close to Mallard Point Apartments. The village asked questions about the property management company. How available will they be? Will they be on site? Will they be off site? So forth and so on. They also discussed the outside aesthetics of the building and how it's going to need to conform to village ordinances. And she talked about, she being the mayor, talked about how this is just a concept plan. It's not even up for approval. The developer just came in to kind of get some feedback on their concept of what they'd like to do. Community Development Director Scott McMaster said that the proposed development between Bluegrass Drive and Saxony Drive would also feature a 2,800 square foot clubhouse, a swimming pool, 312 surfing parking spaces, and 48 garage spaces with adequate stormwater detention. And as tends to happen in our little town, a whole bunch of people got all worked up over it. There is a strong contingency of people in our town that do not want any multifamily housing in any way, shape, or form. That's no apartments, that's no condos, that's no townhomes. They want ordinances made that single-family homes are only to be built in the village of Channahon moving forward. And to those people, I would ask, did you forget where you came from? Did all of you guys who are opposed to these apartments walk out the front door of your parents' house when you left home for the first time and bought your first house? Or did you have to live in an apartment? Did you have to rent a townhome? Did you even have to rent a house at some point in time? I know I did. I lived in apartments. I lived in a trailer. I lived in a tent for 4 years. And nowadays, with housing prices, with interest rates, and with the cost of living, a lot of the 20-something people in the world can't even afford a house. In addition to that, there are people that not only cannot afford to live in a house, there are people that don't want to live in single-family houses. They don't want the upkeep. They don't want the headache that goes with a single-family house. So they choose to live in apartments. They choose to rent townhomes. They choose to live in multifamily units. Those people are all just supposed to fuck off, right? We don't want them in our town? Interesting. Here's some census information for the village of Channahon. You'll see here that the village of Channahon has a population of roughly 14,138. Roughly 4.5% of those people live at or below the poverty line. That means that there are roughly 636 people, roughly, in our village that live at or below the poverty line. I'm assuming that the people who are opposed to anything like this want these people to just fuck off to another town. Right? Especially when you see things like this. By the way, some people are reacting like it's the mayor approving Section 8 housing, and somebody goes, a large apartment complex does not have the choice to reject the housing choice voucher, so yes, it can be and will be Section 8. I'm glad you have the foresight to be able to tell us exactly who's going to be living in an apartment complex that hasn't even been approved by the village yet. With such psychic capabilities, why have you not been able to muster up the winning lottery numbers? According to somebody that was at the meeting, they said that the units are actually going to be high-end units with a 1-bedroom starting at $1,300, which is just $47 a month less than what my mortgage, property taxes, and insurance all bundled together is every month for an 1,800 square foot ranch home. 2-bedroom apartments are going to start at $1,800. 3 bedrooms are going to start at $2,000. Now, one of the reasons why local people don't want multifamily housing coming in is that they're afraid that it's going to bring the riffraff in. I don't know what kind of riffraff can afford those prices. But Tom, it's going to be Section 8. The government's going to be paying for it. Do you know anybody in town that's Section 8 right now? I don't. Maybe there are people in town that are living off of Section 8. I have been doing searches on the computer so far since that article came out this morning, and I can't find anything about Section 8 in town. That's not saying that there aren't people in Section 8 in town, but what? Oh, my wife was getting a giggle out of my video here. But do you know anybody in town that's Section 8? And if there are people in town that are Section 8, do you see them off running a crime spree, or holding up the Casey's, or robbing the bowling alley, walking into the local barber shop and saying, "Stick 'em up, give me all your money"? I don't. Here's the biggest apartment complex in town, Mallard Point Apartments. Doesn't seem to be causing any trouble in town. Here are their rent prices from their smallest unit to their highest unit. The smallest unit is 766 square feet for $1,114. The largest unit is 1,143 square feet for $1,472. It is smaller than our house and costs more than our house. And the apartments that are being proposed, if the information is correct, will cost more than this. But that doesn't stop some people from showing their true colors. Like this comment right here. Some of us have good jobs and work our ass off to live in an area with like-minded people. Let's just pause right there. Like-minded people? Could you elaborate on the like-minded people part? Because most of the people I know in Channahon are just interested in doing their job, paying their bills, and being left alone. But I guess that depends on whether or not you live in a single-family house or not, as to whether or not you're like-minded with Vince here. I left Plainfield because of the low income grabbed that ruined that town. Never once, here's where the key mindset comes in. Never once in history does importing lower class people do any good for a neighborhood. Let me repeat that last line. Never once in history does importing lower class people do any good for a neighborhood. Not lower income people, lower class people. And he's not alone in his thought process in this town. If you live in an apartment, according to people like this, you are low class. I guess Vince walked out his parents' front door at 18 and bought his first house without any help. No problem. He hit the ground running, right? Because if Vince ever had to live in an apartment at any point in time, or rent a townhome, or rent a condo, or even rent a house, according to his own words, he would be considered lower class. I find it amazing that a town like Channahon, with an average income of $53,000, we have a median income of $112, and an average income of $55,000 too. I find it amazing that a small town of less than 15,000 people with a median income of $112,000 and an average income of $55,000 has become such elitist snobs that anybody who lives in an apartment complex is now beneath them. Is that really what you guys think of people who live in an apartment? How would you know if anybody that you sit next to at the ball game for your kids' school, or sit next to at your kids' play, or sit next to at a village board meeting, or who's pumping gas at the next pump? How would you know that they're on Section 8? How would you know that they're of lower class than you? You could be insulting some of the very people that you claim to be your friends. This town is filled with a bunch of really good people who work hard, pay their bills, just want to be left alone and raise their family in a nice community. And people who live in apartment buildings, or in townhome buildings, or in condos, or in mobile homes are no different than you. They might make a little bit less money. They might make more money, but not want to live in a single family home, not want to have the headaches. But because of where they live, you consider them to be lower class. Others consider them to be riffraff. There are a shit ton of things about this town that I'm extraordinarily proud of. And it makes me proud to say that I'm a 20-year resident of this town. And then I see comment sections like that, and I get disgusted by the people who live around me. If you consider anybody who lives in an apartment building lower class than you, then the only person in the conversation that's lower class is you.